I'm your host, Elite Wages, and this is the final episode before the NFL season kicks off on Thursday. Two little announcements before we get into the fantasy football episode, which is probably going to be my favourite episode of the lot so far. The first one is going to be a little bit of a schedule announcement. So obviously going forward with the NFL starting on Thursday, obviously EPL is normally every weekend, but obviously international break this week, so there's no EPL this week. The schedule is going to change a little bit, going forward. So my new show schedule is going to be NFL. It's going to be every Wednesday, and Premier League and EFL, EPL is going to be every Thursday. So we're going to have Wednesday and Thursday episodes every week. Obviously, across the two episodes, I'll be breaking down all my best bets, and the best fantasy options for the fan team weekly contest, and obviously the season-long contest for both sports, NFL and soccer/football. So there's the schedule announcement done. The next one is the big one. That's the giveaway winners. Obviously, I mentioned, I think it was over a week ago now, that I'm going to be giving away 3 free tickets into the fantasy contest over on FanTeam. All you have to do is like, retweet and comment NFL. We've got 27 here. So I'm going to get the random number generator. I'm just going to give me notes out as well really quick so I can write down the numbers. So I'll spin this. How many did I say? Was it 27? 27. So I'll spin this. So 1 to 27. I'm going to spin this 3 times. So first number 5. Second number 10. Third number 21. So those are the 3 winners. So let's go across here. Go on the post, and we'll put it on a generic sort of setting for each comment. Let's put it on. How do we change the thing here? Alright, so we'll go down from top to bottom. So you go sort by likes. I've liked every single one, so all should have 1 like. Oh, he's got 3. Right, okay, we'll do it from relevance. Right, relevancy, there you go. Right, so the first number is number 5, so we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to retweet that comment there. So Cal Brooker, you're the first winner. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Fake Football Coach, you are the second winner. And then 21, so 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So Liam Manion, I think that's how you say your name, you are the third winner. So I've retweeted all 3 comments, and you are the 3 winners. So if you have been retweeted, get into the DM, slide in the DMs, and I will probably need your fan team ID. And I'll get those tickets sent over to your accounts as soon as possible. So congratulations to the 3 winners. If I can see them again here, but I can't. So the 3 winners, there you go, they are Carl, Fake Football Coach, and Liam. You 3 are the winners, so congratulations. Continue listening for my best options for the fantasy season-long contest over on FanTeam. So jump over to FanTeam. And we're going to go for the NFL regular season 2025-26 season-long game. £10 entry. So those guys that won the 3 free tickets is going to be for this contest here. So obviously I'm going to be breaking down my favourite players from each position based on a number of things from last season stats and just a bit of general knowledge from the past couple of seasons that they've been playing. Who's the premium picks? Who's the value picks? A little bit, touch on sort of who's going to be the higher owned in ownership levels and things like that. But I will be using Fantasy Pros and their website as well to show you a little bit about stats from last season and things like that. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a few strategies, if you like. First one's pretty obvious in terms of trying to save money for a lot of those higher valued players. Obviously the there's a lot of emphasis on running quarterbacks and things. Quarterbacks that can run tend to get you a lot more points. Other strategies include projections and things from last season. So how a particular player was used, how often they were used could be key, and obviously finding a differential player based on those things is obviously crucial as well. High percentage players, so players that are sort of guaranteed starters rather than fringe players within the team. Guys that are going to be the main sort of player in that particular position as well. I tend to look for, so there's no sort of backups and things like that getting rotated in and out of the games. Obviously that means snaps lost means yardage lost, points lost. Obviously, as I mentioned, dual threat quarterbacks have a higher upside in the game. You do get 1 point per yard rushing yard and 6 points for a rushing touchdown as well. So in the passing scoring system, it's a little bit lower, so you do get the double chance of scoring points, and obviously the higher in demand, which again I'll go through ownership again as well. I see a lot of people liking to double stack the quarterback and a wide receiver. So again, don't be afraid to double stack a quarterback wide receiver duo. You do get 4 points for a passing touchdown, and you get 6 points for a receiving touchdown. So getting 10 points for a touchdown between the two, obviously a lot better than 4 or 6 individually. But again, it's not a necessity. I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks that can get you a lot of high points. Joe Burrow being one of those. He's not really a runner, but he is a very high volume passer. The team obviously is revolved around him passing the ball, so he can be one of those players that can get a lot of points just through the air, and take away the rushing yards from a lot of other players. But ultimately, I think it comes down to identifying key areas to save funds. In previous years, I've used that as the tight end area, the defensive area, and my flex position. So you get obviously a flex position in your wide receiver or your running back room. Tight ends aren't prolifically known for scoring high scoring outputs, so that might be an ideal area to focus on saving money. Defensive and special teams, it's a very similar story. That obviously they're not likely to keep a full team out the end zone for the whole game, and score 3 pick sixes. So that's another area where I would tend to try and save a little bit of money, but at the same time there's good value in some good defenses too. So we're going to start off with the quarterback position, everyone's favorite position. As I said, majority of the time people pick they select the best dual threat quarterback. So Josh Allen, Jackson, Daniels obviously being the 3 highest valued players, all very good through the air, all very good on the ground. Jalen Hurts is another one of those. Kyler Murray also another. So we've got some very high end valued players, but again, the boost of having a run game and a passing game makes it hard to pass up on, with potentially more points to be made. So you've got the obvious choices, as I mentioned there. We'll just click over to fantasy stats. Lamar Jackson led total fantasy points last year, 434. Fantasy points per game, 25. Josh Allen similar, 22 points per game. And then, like I said before, Joe Burrow, he hasn't got that rushing threat, but he does get it done through the air, as did Baker Mayfield. Both of those tie in that. Jaden Daniels, 21.5, averaging as well. A lot of other ones you can see there. Nick's having a very good year. Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray finishing out the top 10. But for me, I think there's a few players that you can go for. I don't want to be picking sort of the top end prices. If I was to pick anyone over 20 million in the quarterback room, I would obviously go for Lamar Jackson. I think he's probably the best dual threat quarterback in the league. But Jalen Hurts is also a very, very good option for this. He had a disappointing season last year. He still managed to finish in quarterback 6 in fantasy. Did he? No, where is he? Quarterback 8 in fantasy last year, averaging 21 points per game. His rushing floor is virtually unmatched. 150 carries. Can we see carries here? No, that's passing stats, so you can't see that. But yes, we can there. 150 attempts, which led the league from a quarterback. 14 rushing touchdowns, which again was the most in the league for a quarterback. 47 red zone carries in 2024. Philadelphia virtually manhandled every team on the ground last year. I think every team has sort of wised up against that. And I think headed into the season, a lot of teams will try and stop Saquon Barkley, which means I'm expecting Philly to go to Jalen Hurts a lot more through the air. And obviously he had a down year in the air, under 3,000 total throwing yards. But mixed in with the rushing yards, he can have the potential to blow up in any game, basically. So he's got two really solid receivers to throw to, and he's obviously got very good rushing potential as well. So I'm expecting him to get back into his 2022 level where he was quarterback 1 overall. So Jalen Hurts is probably one of my go-to guys. Obviously, like I said, Lamar Jackson, you can't really go against Lamar Jackson. Almost 1,000 yards rushing, 25 points per game fantasy, but only got 4 touchdowns last year on the ground. But again, 41 touchdowns through the air, just 4 interceptions. So a very, very solid year for Lamar Jackson. So out of the sort of the premium picks, if you like, they're the two ones I would go for most. Another one that is being really, really overlooked and, in my opinion, undervalued. You can see here I'm going through a lot of pages to get to this guy. You're not going to be surprised when I say his name. Where is he? Is he here? There he is. Aaron Rodgers. $15 million for Aaron Rodgers. 2024. Let's have a look where he is. Aaron Rodgers, quarterback number 15 in terms of total fantasy points. Averaged only 15.7 per game, but he was a top 10 quarterback last year for passing yards and touchdowns. In my opinion, he's so much better at his age. He's so much better than all these quarterbacks above him in terms of the price comparison. He's priced below all of these, and the value potential of him being 15 million, and obviously you're going up to Lamar Jackson being 21.5, so 6.5 million less. I think he's got a huge amount of potential for good differential play and just a very good quarterback in general. He's very durable. He's played every game of the season in 10 of the past 13 years. He's never thrown for less than 3,695 yards in any of those campaigns. Obviously last year, 3,800, 28 touchdowns. He's got new weapons as well. DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, as well as a good pass catching back in Warren. Also got a lot of depth. Scotty Miller and Roman Wilson at wide receiver gives Rodgers more targets, possibly more touchdowns, and he could also possibly be on for his best season for a number of years. So if you want a value play, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. And obviously, if you want to pick a premium, then it's going to be Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts. In terms of the running backs, that are priced very high, Saquon Barkley being one of those. Hard not to see why when he had a monster season last year. So just click to the running back. Saquon Barkley obviously led the league. Top 2, hence the reason why these are the top 2 price players. Obviously Jahmyr Gibbs as well, being making up the 3rd spot. A lot of these players here have been priced accordingly. If you actually look at these, it's pretty similar to the fan team pricing in terms of the order. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Gibbs, Robinson, Jacobs being the top 5 on fan team and in fantasy pros as well. Obviously Williams, Achane, Cook, Taylor, it could actually be. So in terms of the premium picks, which I'm going to class as sort of, where should we go? Should we go 17 and above? So the top 5 will be the premium picks, in my opinion. I think any of these are solid options. For me personally, I'm not going to go for any of the top 3. I'm not going to pay 18.5 million for one of these skill players. Jahmyr Gibbs, for me, there's a little bit of downside for him with having a very good backup in David Montgomery there, which is also a top 20 running back. Derrick Henry, obviously, he has some stuff taken away from him with Lamar Jackson being able to run, even though he did have a monster season last year, 16 total touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, again, I'm expecting him to have a little bit of a down year this year, despite last year leading the league. So my first option in terms of the premium picks actually is going to be Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan Robinson is a really, really, really good, solid running back. As you can see, he's running back 4 last year, just under 1,500 rushing yards, 14 total touchdowns. Did get another touchdown in the receiving yard column as well. 280 total fantasy points, averaging 16.5. I think he's going to be a huge, huge asset for Atlanta next year. Obviously, I've mentioned in my future bets that Penix Jr. and Drake London are going to be a good rapport. But I think Bijan Robinson is tough not to pick. I think he's a very, very good, solid back. And as you can see as well, he's also one of the most used backs in the league as well. He's actually the 4th most used back in the league. So Bijan Robinson will be my first pick. Second pick is coincidentally going to be Josh Jacobs. Obviously, I'm a Packers fan. And I think our best offensive weapon is actually Josh Jacobs. 301 attempts last year, 1,300 total yards, 15 total touchdowns for the Packers last year, with another one in the receiving column, averaging 15 points per game. Again, as I said, I think he's our best, offensive weapon. He's always constantly going to get the ball in his hands. Even when Jordan Love is throwing his heart out, Josh Jacobs is going to be one of those guys that constantly gets the rock. So I think he can carry himself to, another double-digit touchdown record with, another 15 plus fantasy points per game on average. And then if we're going to look at a little bit of value, I've got a few players in mind for the value option. One of these you might not necessarily agree with. But for me, Christian McCaffrey, I think, is way too low priced. There's no way I think Christian McCaffrey should be 14.5 million. Obviously, he came off an injury hit season last year. But a lot of people are fading Christian McCaffrey after his injury hit year. Shortened 2024, but obviously when he's healthy, he is one of the best, fantasy assets in the game. He averaged 24 fantasy points per game for his, in his career. That's obviously running back 1 overall output. He's fully cleared with 0 restrictions this year, meaning, CMC is back. He's in an offense that creates a lot of elite red zone opportunities, and they haven't got Brendan Ayuk to start the year. And they also don't have Deebo Samuel. So he's gonna carry the bulk of this offense, and he's shown he's fully capable of carrying this team into the playoffs before. He's had over 2,000 total scrimmage yards multiple times in his career. He's also accumulated over 10 touchdowns in multiple seasons as well. So I think it might be too much of a risk not to pick Christian McCaffrey in this sort of situation with him being that lowly priced. I'm just going to take out Josh Jacobs for now to go through my next assets for the value option. I'm not a huge fan on going for rookies, but Genty is a very, very good option for a running back. You think he's in a good situation with Las Vegas Raiders as well. Obviously having a poor season last year. 11.5 million is obviously very, very undervalued for a high output running back like he is. 2,106 total yards last year, 7 yards per carry, 29 total touchdowns, 185.8 yards per game. So he's got that potential where he can just blow up and explode. Obviously, he's got Geno Smith as his quarterback as well, so he could catch some from the backfield. But I think Genty is a good value option if you want to take a punt on a rookie. The next one I'm going to go for, I may have gone past him actually. Yeah, he's not this low, I know that. There he is, Tracy. So Tyrone Tracy, running back for the New York Giants, 12.5 million. I think he's still very, very undervalued. Again, if we can just look over to the board here. Where is he? Tyrone Tracy, there he is. Ranked 26th in total fantasy points for a running back. Just under 200 carries, just under 1,000 yards, but he did have 1,000 yards total with his receiving yards. He also had 5 touchdowns, another 6 touchdowns in total, averaging 8.5 fantasy points per game. So obviously on the lower end of the fantasy points per game. But he did have a really, really good year and a really poor offense for the New York Giants. Obviously this year they've got 3 new quarterbacks in the quarterback room. So if they do have any problems whatsoever, Tyrone Tracy is going to be the guy they go to carry it on the ground. He was very solid last year, very durable, pass out the backfield. Just a very good player all around. And I think he's a very good value option and a differential pick as well. Very undervalued based on the fact that he's running back 2, but injuries have now put him into running back 1, into the running back 1 bracket, and that's going to be Nick Chubb for the Houston Texans. Basically, Joe Mixon was quarterback 1. Joe Mixon is now out injured. Obviously, Nick Chubb was injured for the most of last year, so he hasn't really got too many stats, but he's been an absolute monster for the Browns in previous seasons, and now obviously he's going to be running back 1 for the Texans to start the year. I don't think he's a feasible player to sort of have throughout the season, but I think at 7.5 million is a very good option for a value pick if you want to try and add a few more higher value players across your team, basically. So Nick Chubb is going to be my final value pick for this team. I think I said before the quarterback was everyone's favourite position, but I think this one could trump that one. Obviously, again, being the premium picks, I'm probably going to go premium picks up to we'll say 15.5 million and higher be premium picks. Obviously, easy to see why with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Brown, Nico Collins, all those very, very high valued players. Obviously, high valued in terms of their team as well. But again, they go down sort of in a similar order, in my opinion. So the top one being Jamar Chase, 16 points per game on average. Justin Jefferson, 12 on average, being the highest 2. Those 2 being the only ones to go over 1,500 receiving yards, both having 10 plus touchdowns, both 17 for Jamar Chase. So obviously it's hard not to pick Jamar Chase in that situation. Obviously we all know Joe Burrow is going to throw the ball a lot to start the year, but my first premium pick is going to be Nico Collins. Fairly simple reasons for this. He was wide receiver 8 in points per game. Where is it? Points per game. He was wide receiver 8 in total points per game last year. He actually wasn't. He was actually 5th. Oh no, yeah, 8th altogether. He was wide receiver 8 in points per game with 11.9. He only played 12 games last year. So obviously a full season projected him way higher. He had a 2.92 yards per route run, which ranked 3rd in the NFL. His efficiency, some very high stats for him throughout the season. I think next year is going to be huge for Nico Collins. He doesn't have Tank Dell. He's going to be out for the year. Stephon Diggs has moved on to the Patriots, and he's CJ Stroud's clear wide receiver 1. It's not even close for his wide receiver 2 is still very much up in the air. So I think Nico Collins is a good option for a first sort of premium pick. My second pick, just under the premium pick, if you like, is going to be Drake London. I've obviously mentioned him on my future bets episode. Where are we for Drake London? Drake London there. So 16th for fantasy points per game with 10.6. 100 receptions last year. 1,271 total yards, 9 touchdowns. Top 3 wide receiver in all 3 categories. He actually earned the 3rd most targets in the NFL last year. Down the stretch, he came alive with Michael Penix Jr. He averaged over 100 yards and 13 targets per game with Penix Jr. He had a huge 36% target share with Penix Jr. as his quarterback. Obviously, Michael Penix Jr. was highly efficient in 2024 as well with good protection. Their O-line ranks inside the top 10 in many ranking charts. London had 100 catches last year in what was a bad passing offense at the time. He was the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in this offense. He's actually got the exact same competition as he did last year when he hit that 1,000 yard and 100 receptions, as well as the same offensive coordinator who has relied on Drake London heavily during his time with the Falcons. So I think Drake London is a very, very good option for a wide receiver and at a reasonable price as well. And then the value pick for this area is highly known within the group chat. Priced way down in 6.5 million. Is when we get there, it's going to take us a long time to get there. 6.5 million. Next page, it's going to be Calvin Ridley. Now, Calvin Ridley is an excellent wide receiver. In 2024, he led the league in air yards last year with 1,883, but only 59% of his targets were actually catchable. So between weeks 8 and 18, he averaged 14 points per game on average. His upside is a lot higher. He gets number 1 pick Cam Ward, and obviously he was a top deep ball passer in college football last year. He's got no sort of target competition this season. He's got Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson, both of those 32 years old. So Calvin Ridley is sort of the future for this franchise in the wide receiver room. At 6.5 million, I think he's really, really hard to pass up. But again, with us saving a lot of money in other areas, I think it's also hard not to pick CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, CeeDee being one of the best wide receivers as well in the league, had a really bad year last year with Dak out. 100 receptions, 1,100 receiving yards, with just 6 touchdowns, averaging 10.8. But the last time him and Dak were both healthy, he went for 1,700 yards, and I think he went for a good 15 touchdowns as well. So CeeDee Lamb is also looking very, very good within the wide receiver category. Picks in the tight end area, obviously, as I mentioned before, this is an ideal opportunity to save a little bit of money. But right at the top of that board is Brock Bowers. He is arguably one of the highest potential tight ends this season. Obviously, you got Travis Kelce, who always has the potential to blow up. But looking at Brock Bowers from last year, he was actually second. That's surprising. I thought he was first. But his receptions, 112 total receptions on 153 targets, so a very high potential there. High target package as well, with Geno Smith being his quarterback this year. 1,194 total receiving yards. Receiving yards. 5 total touchdowns. Averaging 8.9 receiving yards per fantasy points per game. I think this year he's going to have a higher year again. I think he's going to have a better year again with Geno Smith. Geno Smith is a slinger. He likes to sling the ball around. But he's just a very good quarterback. And I think Brock Bowers is going to be his go-to. He's going to be his safety blanket. He obviously has the potential as well to be that guy for the Las Vegas Raiders this year. So I think he's going to be a very good player. I think he's going to, even if you want to save a little bit of money in your wide receiver room, or maybe you want to play 2 wide receivers and a 3rd running back, he is virtually an extra receiver for a team as well. Going down to a bit of a value pick, so someone's way under that value. We're going to go for Darren Waller, 9.5 million. But again, he's supposedly meant to have retired. Hasn't happened. He's come back with the Dolphins. Obviously, Tua can be another guy that can throw the ball a lot. He's obviously got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So his target share could go down a little bit, and obviously with him being out for a year, they could skip through his progressions a little bit. But he does have that potential to be a very explosive tight end, and as does Jonnu Smith. Obviously, as I mentioned before, Aaron Rodgers is now in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jonnu Smith last year, let's have a look, he was 4th best tight end in terms of fantasy points. In total, he had 7.9 fantasy points per game on average, 88 receptions, 884 yards per game in total, 8 total touchdowns. So he, again, is another player that he can be a very high-end touchdown scorer. And again, he's one of the guys that I'm going to put in as a little value option to be able to save a little bit of money elsewhere in the team. And that's virtually it. I think there's a lot of tight ends you could go for to save a little bit of money. But I think those are the best 3 options. They're probably the least most exciting area on the board. There's a few. I've actually got a few picks for this area, defensive special teams. The Eagles, the joint highest priced in this category. Obviously, if you save enough money around the board, you could get their defense. Whether or not it's going to pay off is another story. We'll have a look in terms of last season. I think they were actually the best defense in the league. Oh, they weren't actually. They were seventh. Okay, seventh best for the Philadelphia Eagles. 41 sacks, 13 interceptions, 1 defensive touchdown, that's probably why they're ranked lower. No safeties, 7.9 averaging per game. So they did have a lot of low-scoring games, which is why they are top 10. So they do have the potential this year to be another one of those teams. Another one for me is going to be the Green Bay Packers, priced at $9 million. I actually like these anyway. Third best defense last year in terms of fantasy, 8.7 averaging, 45 sacks, 17 interceptions, 1 defensive touchdown. They do now have Micah Parsons, so I expect this sack column to go higher. I expect the defensive touchdowns to go higher as well, maybe even a few safeties. But, I think they're going to be very, very good. And you can't really call them a value pick, but saving another $1 million there for the Packers is ideal. Going up again, 9.5. I actually thought they were priced the same, but the Steelers defense is always one of the best in the league. They were ranked 4th best last year, 40 sacks, 17 interceptions, 1 defensive touchdown, averaging 8.6, so very similar to the Packers. But I think if you want to save a little bit of money, you're going to pick the Packers out of those two. And then my final one, this is a true sort of value defensive pick, and it's going to be the New England Patriots at $7 million. So they're ranked as one of the lowest priced, but I think they have a huge upside this year. They've boosted their defense from last year. They've added a few new faces. They were ranked as the second worst defense last year with only 28 sacks. What's that column there? Only 7 interceptions, averaging 3.7. But I think this year they've added a lot of new faces. They've obviously got Vrabel being their head coach, who's defensive minded. But their special teams last year were really, really good. They've also been good in pre-season. So I think at a value pick, you could potentially pick those, the New England Patriots, to keep a few games pretty close, low scoring, and their special teams can be a huge asset to a lot of teams as well. So a value pick in that area is going to be the New England Patriots. But for me, I think it's hard not to go for the Green Bay Packers. So basically, based off everything I've been saying within this episode, I think this is a pretty good winning team. Who did I just have in there? CD Lamb. I think this is a pretty good, winning team. Jonnu Smith being reasonably priced and a very high percentage pass catcher. Nico Collins being the number 1 guy for the Houston Texans this year, with no sort of competition for anyone taking his snaps or anything like that, or his yards. Same for Drake London, and CD Lamb with Dak being healthy is one of the best receivers in the league. So those three I think are a very solid trio. Aaron Rodgers, very undervalued player in my opinion this year. He should be way higher, as I mentioned before. I think he's got. I think he's a lot better than a lot of people priced, sort of 1 to 3 million above him in the category. And obviously linking up with Jonnu Smith, I think he's going to be a very, very good asset to have. Bijan Robinson, number 1 guy, potential for running back 1 this year in my opinion. Christian McCaffrey, really low priced considering we all know what he can do when he is healthy. Josh Jacobs being the Green Bay number 1 guy, and in my opinion the number 1 offensive contributor for the team. And then we're going to go for the Green Bay Packers defense as well, which I think is going to be really, really solid this year. A lot of low scoring games in terms of their opponents, and the special teams looking up as well. So I think this is a very, very good team to pick for one of your tickets. So that's a little bit of a team reveal as well. And I think that is actually me done for this episode. We're all talked out. Basically down to there's not much to go off. But again, head over to Fantasy Sportsbook, a very, very competitive sportsbook for betting lines and markets. Head over to NFL. And the first one I'm going to go for is I'm going to skip this game completely. Well, for now, I'm going to skip this game completely. I probably will have a play in it, so make sure you check out the Twitter, drop me a follow and everything like that. But the first one I'm going to go for, I don't think they're in any particular order, but I'm going to go for, whenever I find it, the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to click on that game. I'm going to go for the spread, so minus 6.5. So basically for them to win by a touchdown. The New Orleans Saints are having really bad quarterback issues, an aging roster all around, and I think the Arizona Cardinals are a really, really good high-powered offense with a decent defense. So I think they can win by a touchdown fairly easily in this game, based on everything I've been saying in the episodes prior to this. Another one I'm going to go for is the Steelers on the spread, which is going to be minus 2.5. So basically for them to win by a field goal. I think it's very similar. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers going back to his old team, New York Jets. The Jets aren't looking well. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is very, very good, and I think the offense had a new look, and I think that can propel them in this game to get the win, first win of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The next game, I missed it there. The next game I'm going to go for is actually up here again. That's going to be the Bengals and the Browns game, and I'm going to go for the Bengals to win by 5.5 points. I know the Bengals have struggled against the Cleveland Browns earlier on in the season in previous seasons, but I think this year is going to be a huge turning point for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns, again, their quarterback room isn't very good. Their team as a whole actually isn't very good. There's only sort of Myles Garrett who can do anything decent for them, and he's not going to carry this team to a win. I think the Bengals are very underlooked and underappreciated. Their defense obviously isn't the best, but their offense is really, really explosive, really high powered, and I think they can basically run away with this game. So I think them winning by 6 points or more is very, very what's the word? Very what's the word? It's going to happen, basically. It's going to happen. The next one I'm going to go for is actually the Dolphins in this game. Dolphins money line, which is Dolphins to win, and that's a 1.9 odds. Basically, again, I think getting Tua back healthy, getting Chubb back on defense, Bradley Chubb, and a lot of new faces, Minka Fitzpatrick coming in on defense. Their offense being back with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, things like that. Achan coming back for week one. I think they're going to be a very good offense and defense. I think the Colts are going to struggle a little bit. I think they, with Dan Jones now, I don't rate Dan Jones at all. Wide receiver room isn't looking very good outside of Pittman, and then obviously Jonathan Taylor can be taken out of the game by a good solid defensive play. So I think the Miami Dolphins have more tools in the bag, and I think they can actually get the win in this game, in this matchup. And then my final play, I would love to pick this one here as one of my picks, but I'm not going to pick it officially. I'm going to go to this game here, and I'm actually going to go for the Bears. I'm going to go for their spread at plus 1.5. Basically getting that extra point as a cushion. But again, I'm not high on Minnesota this year. Obviously, they got a huge amount of offensive weapons in Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones. But I think JJ McCarthy, although I'm a big fan of him, I don't think he's going to do too well in his first game. He's still virtually a rookie, and you're going over to Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, new OC and head coach. A lot of good, wide receiver depth for the team as well, and a very solid defense. So I think they can actually scrape this game and potentially even win it outright. But getting that plus 1.5 as a cushion is also very, very nice. So there's my single bets. So Chicago Bears at plus 1.5, Miami Dolphins moneyline, Bengals minus 5.5, Steelers minus 2.5, Arizona Cardinals minus 6.5. You can parlay it there for a nice win, but I'm not going to. But I do actually have a full parlay for this weekend. I'm actually going to drop a video on it on Twitter, on YouTube Shorts, and it's going to start off with, let me try and find it actually. It's going to be, let me have a look. It's got the Philadelphia Eagles as the first pick. Again, I said I wasn't going to have much on in this game, but I do believe that they win this game fairly easily. Obviously, no Minka Fitzpatrick now for the Cowboys. High-powered offense, high-powered defense. I think they can overrule the Cowboys in this game. Next was going to be the Bengals, obviously similar to what I said a minute ago about the spread, just taking them, to win outright. Again, similar for the Cardinals, similar to what I said a minute ago, just taking them to win outright. Pittsburgh Steelers again, just taking them to win outright again. We're going to go for the Washington Commanders. I think this is a mismatch all over the field. Commanders are way better on offense and way better on defense. Giants do have a decent defense, but their offense is lacking a lot, and I think the Commanders are a very high-powered offense from last year that can continue again into this year. And then, of course, it will not be a parlay if I didn't pick my Green Bay Packers. A lot of good weapons on offense. No sort of big names. Matthew Golden coming in from the draft. Josh Jacobs being running back 1. Jordan Love, a very, very good quarterback. Very solid defense last year. Add in Minka Fitzpatrick, I think it overruns this Detroit Lions team, so I think they can win outright anyway. And we're going to get that at odds of virtually 10. So £10 will return 100. So that's my parlay of the week. That's me done and dusted for this episode, the final episode of pre-season for the NFL. Obviously breaking down all my fantasy football selections for the fan team contest. Fan team season-long contest. Premium picks, value picks, everything in between in every possession for this contest. Obviously, the little team reveal as well. Giving away the tickets to these 3 guys here. So, Carl, Fake Football Coach, and Liam. Get in the DMs and drop your fan team IDs, and I'll get those tickets sent to you ASAP. Also, giving my best bets for the week as well. So, make sure you drop me a follow. Like and retweet this episode when it comes out. Like and retweet anything anyway. Drop me your favourite play for this week's betting slate, and obviously your favourite value pick and premium pick, and anything else for fantasy football. Any questions, anything like that, drop it in the comments. As always, head over to my Twitter, my YouTube as well. Do the same thing. Drop me a sub. Like and retweet. Like, subscribe, share. Head over to my shorts, drop me a like on them as well. Watch some of my videos there, and just make sure you don't miss out any content that I'm putting out. So that's me done for pre-season. Obviously, again, mention the schedule changing next week to NFL on Wednesdays and EPL on Thursdays. So make sure you turn notifications on Twitter and YouTube so you do not miss a single episode for either one of those sports. So that's me done and dusted. Good luck to everyone that's betting or playing fantasy football for the upcoming NFL season, and I'm going to catch you later.